Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. I want to talk about Ben Simmons more. I can seriously talk about this guy 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. You name it, I can attack a Ben Simmons conversation. But I'm so fascinated with where we are right now with the guy that there's so many different angles to assess this. You can look at it from a where are we now from the beginning of the season type of view, and it's bonkers. It really is. There were stretches earlier in the year where he was consistently giving you horrendous turnover numbers. In the month of January, he went through a stretch of 7 turnovers, 5 turnovers, 6 turnovers, 5 turnovers. That can't happen from Ben Simmons. Not only that, not only was he turning the rock over, but he wasn't scoring and producing offensively either. And it was brutal. It was such a bad version of Ben Simmons that it was unacceptable. And it was okay to really target him and abuse him from a fan standpoint, right? Like when we talk about the team, abuse Ben Simmons. Come on, Ben! We need more. That's okay to do when you underachieve the way that he did. On January 16th against Memphis, he had 11 points and 7 turnovers. On January 12th against the Heat, in 32 minutes, he had 5 points and 6 turnovers. That was not something that we should sit with. That should make us upset. That should make us disappointed. And quite frankly, it did. But now, it's like we have a whole new version of Ben Simmons. And I'm trying to figure out how we got here today. When I watched him play against the Mavericks, I loved every aspect of his defense. And if you don't appreciate what he does defensively and you think that doesn't matter or that doesn't impact anything because of his problems on the other side, well, that's being a jerk-off. You can acknowledge how well he is defensively, like what he does. I know it's easy to say because we enjoy the Sixers, but he really is the best defender in the entire league. There's guys who can defend at such an elite pace, but they can't do it at every position. Ben isn't just a guy that can defend every position, but he can do every position unbelievably. And that's what makes him so versatile. Now, you can acknowledge that there is a problem with the offensive side of the game. And that does matter, right? So you can't just be someone who focuses on the defense and says, well, because he's such a great defender, you don't have to worry about the offensive side. That's not fair. You also can't be someone who despises his offensive game so much that you don't care about his facilitating, his assists, and his defense. You got to play it both ways. And knowing that this team's identity is defense, well, he is very crucial. But right now, we're getting this attack mode Ben Simmons, this aggressive Ben Simmons offensively, and the work and the dedication to the craft in areas offensively for Ben is really starting to show, and it's becoming very noticeable. And it puts a big damn smile on my face. But if you remember, even starting the year, the jump shot was such a hot discussion. And it makes sense that it was. But I felt like he was trying to prove to everybody, hey, I have been working on this, where he would camp out in the corner. And they even had set plays for him where he would get that wide open corner look and he would take it. We haven't seen anything relatively close to that in so many games that it seems like they tried to wash that out. Forget about it. It's not you. That's not who you are. That's not how you play. Don't force something just to force something. It really does seem like they took it right out of the playbook. Ben Simmons shooting, that's not even a part of the game plan anymore. And some of me is okay with that because I realize that that's not who he is, and I don't want him to go out there and jack up a bunch of threes. I go through this all the time with Giannis. People appreciate Giannis being willing, and that's good, right? That's good that he'll step up and he'll shoot threes, even though he's not a good three-point shooter. That's also what the other team wants him to do. It's also why the Bucks struggle at times, because sure, it's great in theory that Giannis isn't afraid, even though he knows he sucks in that area. It also doesn't benefit the team when he jacks up all those threes because he's not efficient at it. So part of me is okay with Ben not just doing it to do it, but the other side is, when are we going to see that adapt part of his game? When are we going to see him develop that and that become something that is somewhat normal? Because it should be, and it can be. He can knock that shot down, but he has not airballed 3 straight threes, but it was 2 airballs and 1 that barely nicked the rim. And ever since that happened, he hasn't even pretended to give it time of day. And I don't know how to really balance that. Because as much as I don't think he 100% needs it, I do think that it matters to work on some form of jump shot. The other side, I see him go up against all these players now, and he's working his back to the basket, and his footwork is unreal, and this baby hook is becoming more of a common threat for him. He's scoring offensively, and he's continuing to be a scorer and a threat, but he's developing in different ways. That's not so much the jump shot. So I'm proud of him from that aspect, and I think it's becoming such a killer thing for him. People are having trouble defending Ben in that area. So it started out with him pretending to be more of a shooter, pretending to be someone who's going to camp out in the corner and work on spacing, but that totally stopped very quickly. Then you went through the phase of the poor play that I mentioned earlier. Now the trade rumors happen. So now you're hearing a lot about Ben Simmons maybe getting into a trade with the Houston Rockets for James Harden. So what I'm trying to figure out now is, when did this happen? Why did this happen? Because Ben Simmons, he gets triggered by a lot of things. He rises to bigger moments when he plays LeBron. He loves that matchup. He eats it up, and I like the fact that that's the case. It's crazy that it bothers me, because it bothers me that he'll see Grayson Allen and he won't feel like attacking that mismatch ever, which is putrid. And then he'll see LeBron and he'll love it and soak it all in, and he'll want to destroy it. He'll want to really go after LeBron, and he wants to make a statement to him. I'm proud that he wants to do that. It makes me happy that he's not backing down from the best of the best. You saw that with Luka Doncic. He was swarming Luka, and he was dominating him, and he took so much pride in that matchup. So when it's these bigger players, bigger stars, he's ready to rise to the occasion. When it's some nobodies, he doesn't feel like it. Now, if I'm someone who praises, or not praises, but I consistently say regular season is what it is, why would that bother me? If I'm so focused and set on the NBA postseason being way different and having to play against better talent, why would it bother me that Ben Simmons plays harder against better talent? I get it. There's a little bit of hypocrisy going on, because when I see him take his foot off the gas on these loser players that can't sniff his jockstrap, it's ridiculous to me. But I guess it's better than the alternative. Beat up on bad players and not show up against the big ones. I guess it is better than the alternative. But when the trade rumors started coming around, that's where I think Ben was at his lowest, and a lot of us cracked, and there are still people who want him to be gone, and they want the Sixers to try and trade him for Bradley Beal. I think if you get this Ben, and this is why I was so hard on him, because now that Ben is playing at this level, it's not ironic that you feel so confident about this team. We now ask the question, can they beat Brooklyn? Well, why are we asking that question? It's not because of Dwight Howard and Shake Milton. It's not because of Danny Green. It's because that now Ben Simmons is being a dog. Ben Simmons has elevated his play, and Ben Simmons is being aggressive and being one of the best versions we might have ever seen to this point of his career. So because he is now at the top that we've ever seen him play, now we're asking the question, can they hang in the East and win an Eastern Conference? Oh, maybe because he's that important. Oh, maybe because if he played significantly better than what he did when he was turning the rock over 7 times and scoring 5 points, then you'd see a scarier team that could actually compete when we talk about who can win an NBA championship. So that's why I'm hard on him, because I know his ceiling means that this team is now in a different tier of discussions. So I demanded out of Ben, and you're starting to see it, but I think the trade rumors really had a lot to do with it. I guess, though, when you're in a talk for James Harden, that could be a big confidence booster. Can we look at it from that perspective? Hold on a second. I'm in talks to be traded for James Harden? That's how the league views him. James Harden type of deal. Is that what makes him feel better about himself? Is that what started the transition of him getting out of that funk? I don't know if it did. I think if anything, it put more pressure on him. I don't know if he looked at that, looked himself in the mirror and said, James Harden, huh? James Harden, huh? And like use that to motivate him, that this is how everyone around the league looks at me. Now, the thing I have with that is he knows it. All right, he's confident in himself. He knows where he stands. And no matter what Joe Schmo and Joe Blow says on Twitter, he knows his value in this league, and he totally understands how Doc Rivers sees him, how everyone in the league sees him, and you saw that in the results of the All-Star voting. I think that put a little more stress on him, though, because that was the first real time of a big news story of trade rumors. There's always been the angry guy on the Fanatic or WIP that wants to get rid of him because he can't do the one thing that we all want him to do, and, oh, he can't do anything. If he can't do that, he can't do anything. Get him out of town. But once James Harden came alive and there was real drama, that's an all-new, different feel for Ben Simmons. It became real. No matter what Doc Rivers said to him, because I remember people asking Doc Rivers about Ben Simmons during that time. And he said, look, we called Ben Simmons as soon as we saw the reports, and we reassured him that he's going to be fine. We want him here. But if I'm a player and I hear Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers tell me that, no matter what they try and sell me, I've seen Daryl Morey's track record. I've watched him work with stars in this league before. He's not afraid to pull the trigger. So there'd always be something in the back of my mind questioning if they were selling me bullshit or not. So the trade rumors happened. Then the All-Star Game voting happened, where the public wasn't really leaning in his direction and all. I mentioned the coaching staffs did, and the coaches around the league did, but popularity-wise, while I understand he's from Australia, so there's that portion of fans overseas that really enjoy everything that he does, I thought that he had a little bit of a sense of urgency come in because he realized that, hey, I got to make the All-Star Game. I have to. I got to continue to make this All-Star Game. So that pushes him. That really does push him. Ben Simmons seems to be a guy where a lot boils up and then rage comes out. What is amazing is that rage is unreal. That rage forces him to be this special player that is so rare and so uncommon to find. I guess my problem with it all is something needs to cause him to do that. Right now, it seems to be all of this together, in my opinion, has forced Ben Simmons to really dig deep and play this way. Is it sustainable, though, is the question. Now, I see Joel Embiid as the MVP right now, as I think we all kind of do. And with Joel, he has elevated to this wild level. And how much has Ben Simmons watched Joel, realized the love he's getting from the city, realized the passion we have for watching Embiid every night, and realized that he could do the same. Joel did take this significant change to his game. He went from very good all-star to holy shit, Joel Embiid is an absolute monster consistently. Last couple of games, he's fallen off a bit. But still, big picture-wise, Joel Embiid has torn up this league pretty much every damn night. And has Ben Simmons studied Joel Embiid, watched him make this progress, and realized I could do the same thing. And realized when I do on these given nights, because there are nights when he doesn't, he's not consistent, and that's one of the big factors of Ben Simmons. He's not consistently doing it. Some nights he's going downhill, some nights it's, I'd rather just pass the ball around and not assert myself offensively. That has to change. But I know if I'm in an area where I'm a great player and one of my teammates went from great player to absolute stud, and I recognize that he did that, and I know that there's untapped potential that I can continue to grow myself, and watching someone so close to me do it personally, well, that would almost make me want to thrive to the next level. That would make me really look at myself and assess my game and analyze what I can do to make that same type of adjustment that Joel Embiid did. Now, after the game against the Dallas Mavericks, Ben Simmons was interviewed by TNT, and he talked about the accountability by Doc Rivers. And that was a hot topic at the end of last year, and I think that's what this locker room needed. I think that's what this culture needed, a veteran presence voice that would hold these players to a different standard. And I just wonder also with Ben Simmons, a lot of wondering, but I'm trying to dive deep into the Ben Simmons mind. I'm trying to figure out how did we get from where we were in the beginning of this season all the way to where we are now with this unbelievable version of Ben that puts this grin on my face where I'm giddy watching him play. Ben is back to that point for me where it is so damn exciting and it's sensational. It's tremendous what he does on the basketball floor. And I'm talking about not just, I know what he does defensively. I really do. And I appreciate that more than most. I would say I am maybe the most lover of defense in the entire basketball community. So I'm for it. But I'm just talking about the offense because I know what he brings defensively at this point. It's not shocking. He does it to all these players. Look, Luka Doncic tears up this league. He constantly drops a ton of points. And you saw he wasn't able to get shots off. The length of Ben Simmons really caused some problems and really caused some issues where he wasn't even letting it fire. He was uncomfortable doing so. Now, I mentioned in the postgame pod that he did get some shots off deep as hell, 9,000 feet away from the basket. And they weren't even really when Ben Simmons was on him. That's when another defender was in place. And that's the reality of it. When Ben Simmons guarded him, though, it was 0 threes made, 6 points, a handful of turnovers. It just shows what Ben Simmons is capable of doing, and I know that, but it's about that adapting on the offensive side that means so much to where the ceiling of this team really is. But for Doc and the accountability role here, it could be where Ben Simmons is the guy that needs hard-ass coaching. They need someone that will drill him. They need someone that will be extremely hard on him. Everyone has different reactions as players, and coaches need to figure that out, and they need to really see, okay, this guy is good at handling this. This player needs a little bit more softer approach. This guy can take it. I can rip Jimmy Butler into shreds because I know he's going to look at me and say, fuck you, asshole, and go take the ball and score 20 points. You can be hard on Jimmy Butler because you know the response is going to be tough, hard nose. Not everybody's like that. But maybe, because Brett Brown, and we talk about the family aspect, his family, Ben Simmons, his father being in play, Australia being in play, that now you have someone that you're way too close with. Doc is this fresh air concept, this breath of fresh air where he's tougher on the guy. He's tougher. He's the John DeFilippo to Carson Wentz instead of Press Taylor. That's the difference. You have a guy that's being a little bit stubborn back towards Ben Simmons. And maybe that's the best way to coach Ben Simmons, and you're starting to see that now. So for Ben to be so vocal about accountability, I think he is holding himself accountable, watching Joel Embiid hold himself accountable. Joel Embiid's growth isn't all Doc Rivers. Does Doc Rivers have a role? For sure, but this is offseason after offseason after offseason after offseason of work that now Joel Embiid has blossomed into this special player. And I think Ben Simmons, from an accountability standpoint of Doc Rivers, has accepted that, and watching Joel accepted the accountability as well. And this whole mindset change of him, I'll keep drilling it. It's really special, and I think that it has the possibility to be sustainable. Is it? I don't know. I really hope so, and I'm being optimistic here. I hope it is. But this new mindset that he's talking about, opening up about, it's big for me. And just the fact that he's opening up. He was on pre- and post-game on NBC Sports Philadelphia. He was on TNT. We haven't seen Ben Simmons to this level yet of being comfortable in front of the camera and showing us a little bit of who he is. I know a lot of Sixers fans that never liked Ben Simmons' personality. It's cocky, confident, arrogant, and I like that in a basketball player. I think that's important. I want someone to have that swag, like I'm the best, because basketball is that. You know, you want to have that type of swagger to you. That's what the great players do have. It's like Michael Jordan. What do you think he thought of himself? You think he was arrogant? I mean, come on. They all are. The best are arrogant. Be arrogant. But I think you're starting to see more of a relatable side out of Ben. And maybe it's just him growing as an athlete, growing as a professional. He's always been in the spotlight. Even as a young kid, going to LSU and all of it, played in Australia. So he's always been a player that's been in that shine. But now he understands Philly a little bit more. And I just wonder if there's a correlation between that and where we are today with just being him out there on the floor. Just this comfortability factor, if that even makes sense. What does make sense, though, is utilizing Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, Orbit Energy and Power is home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure that your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. Their solar program eliminates your electric bill completely by offering flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So check out their information. It is all down below in the description. So we did get some news on Tobias Harris. It looks like there's no structural damage, which is fantastic news. He's probably going to miss a little bit of time. He's not playing against the Cavs. I think what you should do is just shut him down until after the All-Star break, and I would imagine that's probably what they're going to do. Rather be cautious, rather not really push anything. And I know him being a snub has been a hot topic. Who knows, like, I don't know if he was. The problem is he's been waiting to get caught into this All-Star game. He's been waiting to be voted for it. And who knows what would have happened if he did get voted for it and then this injury occurred. But, you know, I want to see him in there. I don't care that he's not in there. He's a bubble guy, and he deserves to be a bubble guy. I'm not saying he should be in over anybody else. I'm also not saying anybody needs to be out that's in. I think this is a bubble guy. He is the clear-cut bubble type of player. So I'm okay with him not getting there, but I don't think he needs to be fooling around with that. So the fact that he didn't get picked in is probably a good thing right now. Quite frankly, I don't want Jerome B to be playing. I don't want Ben Simmons to be playing either. I like the NBA All-Star Game. I know some think it's stupid and dumb. I like baseball the most, though, and I like the NBA the second best. Yeah, I mean, moral of the story is, though, I got sidetracked on Tobias and the All-Star Game. I just wanted to bring up the fact that there's no structural damage, and hopefully he is going to be good after the All-Star break. I would imagine that's probably when we look more. Hopefully. I mean, who knows? Maybe it could be longer than that. I don't know. No structural damage, though, gives me some positive signs here. I would imagine that, you know, they said he's going to get reassessed or reevaluated in 48 hours. I feel like I'm dramatized to that phrase. Reevaluated in X amount of time, 48 hours, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. With any Philadelphia sports medical staff, it never sits good with me at all. But what does, though, is anytime hotline calls. And there's a couple anytime hotline calls left over from the game yesterday that I did not get to. So why not implement these? So what they are is your post-game reaction to Sixers Mavs on Friday night? No, Thursday night. Losing track of days here. All right, here we go.
What's going on, Brodes? Not the best game for Joel Embiid, but here's the thing about this team. If Seth Curry and Danny Green are hitting their threes as consistently as they did tonight, this team's not going to lose many games. Not to mention Ben Simmons absolutely shut down Luka Doncic. he's having one of his best stretches, arguably, of his career. And Dwight Howard, he had easily his best game of the year. A little vintage Dwight, so love to see it. Great win. We'll love the better performance from Embiid, but besides that, great night.
It was a fun night. It was very entertaining to watch a team just dominate their opponent, specifically Luka Doncic, who knows how to score the rock. I want to touch on what you said about the shooters making their shots, and it is pretty damn simple, right? I like this. I like to go into the second level. I like to dive deeper. I like to analyze things a little bit heavier than most, I feel. But when it comes to this, sometimes there is overthinking sometimes. And sometimes it could just be if your shooters make your shots, you're going to win the basketball game. And that's why when they lost to the Raptors in game 1, what did I say? They had wide open looks, so they doubled Joel. What did Joel do? They found players out by the perimeter, but those guys were missing their shots. What happens when they make them? Well, the following game against the Raptors, you saw just that. And I thought it's funny because there's a lot of Toronto fans that follow Sports Talk with Brodes. I think a lot of it has to do with back in the series when Kawhi was there, a lot of people found my content from Toronto and stuck with me, and it's awesome. It's unbelievable that happens, but that is the case, and there's a lot of Toronto fans in my comment sections after some of these games against the Raptors, and after game 1, it's, haha, Embiid sucks, we got your number, and then after game 2, it was, whoa, you're lucky the Raptors didn't make shots, because if they just made their shots, they would have won. Yeah, well, we were saying the same thing in game 1 against that, right? Like, it's not rocket science. If you make your shots, you're going to be harder to beat. The problem I have, though, is this team good enough to rely on that? Is there, like, when you look at the Nets, their identity is what? They can score. They can score, but they can't defend. The Sixers' identity is defend, and you can look at their numbers and say that, well, look how many points they're averaging. Well, a lot of teams are averaging a lot of points, and I guess what I'll do here, since we're on this topic, is look it up, right? Like, let's look up points per game so we can get an actual number here, just to put it more in perspective. All right, NBA stats, points per game. The Philadelphia 76ers are right around league average. They're at 12, but they're from 12 to 16, these teams have 113 points. So what separates them from 12 and 16 is 0.5 points per game. So they're pretty much in that range of league average offensively, which brings up my point that they are not this offensive juggernaut team. Their identity is defense. They stop teams from scoring, and they are very good at it when they're all logged in. So can we rely on, hey, if they make their shots, they win with a league average type of team? Or do you need to go in with the mindset of, you better dominate defensively? You better bring it every possible way you can on the defensive side and win with that. You know what I'm saying? Because Brooklyn's first in the league with 121 points per game. You don't have that with the Sixers. So while I do think it's kind of basic, hit your shots and win, I don't know if this team's identity is, hey, you're this scoring team that's so good that you rely on your shooting to win you games. You really can't rely on your offense to win you games. You got to rely on the defense. So I know a little bit I'm contradicting myself because I mentioned how against the Raptors, if you hit your open shots, you're going to win. But that brings in the doubling Embiid aspect and a X's and O's schematically thing when a team takes away Embiid the way that they did. The scheme and your idea of getting wide open looks from three, I mean, that's going to be there. That's how you counter the double team. Pass the rock to your wide open guys. So from that angle, when they take away Embiid, from that angle, your strategy, getting wide open looks, yes, you need to rely on those players to hit those shots because that's what the other team is giving you. But when you look at it from a larger perspective, that's where I look at it from the whole defense-offense thing. You got to rely on your defense more because, well, your offense is just average. But they need to be average. You got to have them performing average. If they perform average and your defense is who they are, well, then you most likely win as well. I hope that's not too confusing.
Hey, Brodes. Heck of a one tonight against a team that's starting to get a little hot in Dallas. Yeah, man. Ben Simmons, he was incredible. The defense he played on Luka Doncic, that's crazy. That's crazy. We held him to 6 of 13 shooting. That's pretty incredible. I think Ben has a strong case to be Defensive Player of the Year. Like what I've seen out of everybody tonight, hopefully Tobias is okay. The bench, finally with a great game. That was a good game from the bench. And looks like Joel Embiid has hit that slump, 5 of 20. Hopefully he can get going again.
And I think he will. I really do. I'm not concerned with Joel Embiid. I think that, someone asked me a question on Coffee with Brodes. And by the way, Coffee with Brodes, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And if you didn't hear the news, I guess I'll throw it in here as well. I have fully committed to Brodes Media full time. For the last 2 years, I worked at 97.3 ESPN, and it was the greatest time of my life. I started as an intern, and then I worked into a weekend producer, and then I joined Afternoon Drive with Mike Gill, about maybe basically a year ago, coming up on a year now, and it was tremendous, but thanks to everyone who supports the channel and supports the podcast. It has reached a point of committing full time, and I am so excited for this journey. It's so surreal, so I just want to thank you. But the Coffee with Brodes, I was asked this question of, should we start resting Joel Embiid because he looks a little tired? And I don't want the answer to be yes, because I don't like that. Could he use a rest day? Maybe. I mean, could it hurt if you try it? I guess not. I guess I would be okay with it. I don't love it. I'm not thrilled by it. Is it worth a shot, though? I guess so. You have the All-Star game coming up. You have the break coming up before the second half, which is going to be a gauntlet. You got brutal stretches of play where you're going out west and you're seeing the Suns and the Clippers, and then you end up having, who else was it? The Milwaukee Bucks 2 times in a row. I mean, you do have this one crazy stretch of a lot of basketball against a lot of great teams, and it's going to be a bumpy ride for sure. I want to see how this team answers the bell to that test. That is a test for sure. I just wonder, though, with this team and Joel, he's just in a funk. I'm not overly concerned. I think he'll bounce back, but giving him a day off or so, is that maybe your best idea? Is that your best concept, to somewhat hit the refresh button for him just a bit, just a little refresh? Hey, here's a little refresh button. Or do you throw him out there? Joel, work yourself out of this sling. Work yourself out of this slump. I just said sling, that thing and slump put together. Work yourself out of it. See, I tend to lean towards that. My initial reaction to that question was, I don't know, why not keep throwing him out there? Like, he had good looks, he was just missing his shots, because he did. Boban sagged off, he did have some good looks and missed some of those mid-range game shots that he was knocking down pretty consistently there prior. So, I don't know. I can see both sides. I tend to lean towards just keep throwing him out there, let him work through it, let him find his groove, let him face adversity, let him answer the bell, let him face the problems that he's in. But I could also see a night off not being the worst thing in the world too. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at there. I see both sides. I'm playing both sides of the field on that one. I'll leave you with this. Watching LeBron James struggle right now without Anthony Davis and Schroeder, I know it's not easy to win a lot of games in this league when you're down a couple men, and they're not just a couple men, they're serious players to the roster. When you don't have Joel and when you don't have Ben Simmons on the floor and the Sixers lose, maybe that just puts it in perspective a little bit more. That not only the greatest basketball player of this generation by far is struggling to do it on his own. Difference is he's, 30-plus years old at this point, 35, 36 in that range. He's getting up there. He's in year 3,000 of his career, so he's got a lot of miles on the tires. So it's different than being 24 years old. But maybe that puts it in perspective that in the NBA, when you're down your stars, it's a lot tougher to carry your team to victories, just saying. So I'll leave you with that. All right. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.